The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, one and all. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studio facilities in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and to find out about the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. Exonation, my guest this hour is Michael MAYES, and Michael has investigated sightings of both out-of-place known animals and those that may or may not exist. For the last 15 years, he has appeared on numerous podcast and radio programs and on the Lowe Files on the A&E television network. Michael blogs at the Texas Cryptid Hunter and is the author of the illustrated children's book, Patty, a Sasquatch Story. His website or blogspot is texascryptidhunter.blogspot.com. And Michael, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
Okay, so for the listeners who may not have heard you the last time you were on there with us, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in cryptozoology, Black Panthers in particular.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll take it a little more general level first, I suppose, and then narrow it down to the black cats. Grew up kind of a child of the 70s. It was almost a golden age for that sort of thing. The Patterson-Gimlin film had been out a little while, and I'd seen that in the movie theater, and that just fascinated me. And so I pretty much devoured everything I could get a hold of regarding Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Yeti, etc. Lots of good TV shows on at that time. Leonard Nimoy's
In Search of,
and things like that. Just really got me excited. And matter of fact, I checked out all the monster books in my elementary school library so often that the librarian told me I could only check them out every other time. She was worried about me not being a well-rounded young man, so she said I could only check out my monster books every other trip to the library, which I didn't understand at all. But most folks, I guess, grew out of that sort of thing, and I guess I never did. As far as the Black Panthers go, I never really equated large black cats to unknown animals like Bigfoot or Nessie or anything like that. Matter of fact, I was well into my 30s as an East Texan before I realized that science did not recognize the existence of any such animal. It was news to me as people who grew up in that part of the world where I did in East Texas, the Piney Woods area of East Texas. They were just another animal in the woods out in the bottoms, and they weren't common by any means, but neither were they something that was shocking if somebody saw them. So once I found out that there wasn't supposed to be any such animals, that really intrigued me, and I really began to look at it in depth.
Tell me, Michael, have you yourself seen a black cat?
I have not seen a black cat. I have been privileged enough to see a mountain lion in East Texas. and in an area where they're not supposed to be. But I guess someone forgot to tell him, because there he was, and there was no mistaking about it. But I have myself not seen a large black cat. No.
Are these cats just jaguars, or why are they such an anomaly? If Texas, couldn't something come up from Central America and kind of end up in Texas?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's really the $1,000,000 question.
Yeah.
Is what are people seeing? People, first of all, they say, what do you mean there's no such thing as a black panther? And just that term is kind of a catch-all phrase for any large, long-tailed black cat. They said, we've seen them in the movies. Sure. We've seen them on TV. What you're seeing there, mostly 90%, I would say, are melanistic leopards. And leopards, of course, are not native to North America. Those are African and
Sure.
Asiatic cats. Now, jaguars are native to the Americas. They're the biggest cat in the New World, and at one time they were native to Texas as well as most of the North American continent. So they're a great candidate for what people are seeing. The problem is they have supposedly been hunted almost completely out of North America, and the other issue is that it is thought that only about somewhere between 5 and 10%, with 10% being on the high side, of these jaguars exhibit melanism and are black. So there are some problems with that theory too. But that is one of the most reasonable theories, I suppose, along with the fact that some people believe that mountain lions can occasionally be black. They're great candidates, except for the fact that they're not supposed to be black. We've never had a melanistic mountain lion observed anywhere.
And well, you have albinos in many species, so why couldn't there just be the reverse of an albino? Who knows? What is your take on what a black cat is?
Well, personally, I don't think there's any one single candidate that's the answer for every visual that takes place out there. It is a fact, and this is where sometimes we're hard on wildlife officials, and because they're so quick to dismiss sightings of any kind of cryptid creature. But it is a fact that as a society we have become much more urban, and not many of us get off the concrete that often anymore, and as such there are an awful lot of people out there who aren't very familiar with their wildlife. So their misidentification is something that does happen. I get weekly emails from someone who's very excited or frightened even that they have seen a mountain lion in their neighborhood, and they've got a picture of it and they want me to look at it. And almost without exception, I've opened those up and they're bobcats. People just don't know, their wildlife. So misidentification is a factor. There's no doubt about it. The jaguar theory is certainly one that I think is plausible in many cases. There's another theory outside of jaguars and cougars that interests me a great deal, and that is the theory that feral cats are growing to unusually large sizes, and that's what people are seeing. And it's very true that we have a big feral cat problem in this country.
Yes.
And people kind of scoff at that. How could, a little house cat, basically, that, maybe 2 generations removed from, a domestic cat, how could it grow to such a size that people would mistake it for something panther size? Because, people, when they say panther, they're talking about a big cat.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that seems to be exactly what's happening down in Australia. I've followed that pretty carefully, and there's actually a chapter in the book about large feral cats being a candidate. They have shot cats down in Australia that have been DNA tested and found to be catus, just domestic house cats, just feral, but they're the size of small leopards. It's pretty crazy. And the most famous example was one. What was the gentleman's name that shot that cat? His name was Kurt Engel. Kurt Engel was his name. Anyway, this cat measured in excess of 5 feet from nose to tail, and it was over 60 pounds. Sure. Somebody sees that, they're not thinking of a little domestic kitty.
Well, no, because that's
Panther.
Well, that's the kitty cat that's going, here, doggy, doggy, doggy.
Exactly right. And
here, doggy.
So if it's happening down there, certainly we have the feral cat issue as well. Every little town municipality has a dog catcher and animal control.
All right, we're going to have to take a little bit of a cliffhanger here and talk about the giant-sized kitties when we come back on the other side of this break. Exonation, my guest this hour is Michael Mays, and his blog spot is texascryptidhunter.blogspot.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget the June-July edition of the X Chronicles newspaper will be available June 10 at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. Plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
We live in rapidly shifting times of extreme volatility and uncertainty. Such profound change brings a unique opportunity for the evolution of consciousness. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, host of Mission Evolution Radio Show, a program that explores the latest scientific developments and deepening spiritual truths supporting human evolution. Join me on xzbn.net, where I interview leading experts in science, physics, medicine, spirituality, and more. By applying divergent viewpoints to leading-edge topics, we uncover expansive and evolutionary truth to assist you on your path to enlightenment. More information and past episodes are available at missionevolution.org.
Michael Mayes is my guest this hour, Exonation. You can check him out at texascryptidhunter.blogspot.com. A 5-foot-long cat from nose to tip of the tail, 60 some odd pounds. Wow.
Correct. Yeah. It was tested. There are photographs. Of course, photographs can be tricky.
Sure.
If you know anyone in your family who's a fisherman, they're famous for forced perspective, holding the fish out closer to the camera to make it appear a little bigger. There are photographs of the cat, but nothing that has something in it to definitively show scale. But it was said to weigh about 66 pounds and be in excess of 5 feet. The tail itself was close to 3 feet long, and the tail is the part that was tested. And again, it came back as just a regular, basically a domestic cat, but this thing was just unbelievably large. And there have been several other specimens taken down there, none quite that big. But, somebody sees a 45, 50-pound long-tailed cat that's black. They're not thinking house cat. They're thinking, panther. And again, if it's happening down there, there's not really a reason it couldn't happen here, in my opinion.
Tell me, Michael, have there been any attacks on people, livestock, and so on in modern times?
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose it depends on modern. I haven't found a credible incident, credible being the key word, where someone was really hurt by one of these cats. There was a report out of Alabama 4 or 5 years ago, a man claiming that he had been attacked by a large black cat. That turned out to be a claim that was on pretty shaky ground, so I don't put much stock in it. I can tell you there are some historical accounts that go back to the late 1800s. The most recent account I can share with you that would fall along these lines is very recent, within the last 6 or 7 months. A lady outside of Greenville, Texas, which is up in the northeastern part of the state, has a beautiful piece of property. It's about 300 acres of hardwood river bottoms on the Sabine River, and they're nature lovers. They take hikes. She's got several children, and they like to spend time out there. And her daughter was out for a walk and came across a large black cat that was in a tree, and it growled and carried on at her, came down out of the tree, and there for a second or two it seemed to be about a 50-50 proposition as to which way it was going to go. It chose to trot off in the opposite direction of the daughter, and she turned around and went the other way. So a potentially serious confrontation was avoided there. That same property just weeks ago, this time it was her son. He was out on an ATV with a friend of his, and they had stopped. They'd been out there hunting hogs, and they had stopped, and they came across something in the brush that was growling, really deep growl. And, these young men are very familiar with the outdoors. They know what a hog sounds like. They said this was something else, and they backed away, got back on their ATV and started to leave the area. And the friend looked back, and this big dark cat was trotting after them. It did not seem to be in hot pursuit as if it was trying to catch them.
Right.
It was more of it's escorting them out of its territory kind of behavior. That's the feeling the boys got, but it shook them up pretty bad. I do have some game cameras up on the property now, and I'm scheduled to go in there to try to do some hunting, and got a game caller. We're going to see if we can call it in and at least get a look at it and see what it might be. But those are two of the more aggressive encounters that I'm familiar with in real recent times.
But there are no attacks on livestock or poultry or domestic animals.
That's one of those things that everybody has a friend of a friend who reports that. Certainly, the problem with any kind of a livestock kill, it's the same problem you have with a footprint or a track. You may be able to identify, due to the nature of the wounds on the horse or the cow or whatever type of livestock it might be, that it was a cat of some kind that took it. However, unless you're standing there watching it happen, you have no idea what color the cat was.
True.
That took that livestock. So that's one of the problems with that. But certainly there have been kills associated with big cats, though, all over the state.
What do the officials say, the game wardens, about the possibility of these giant cats?
Well, they say it's not a possibility, and it's hard to blame them. There's scant evidence; it's anecdotal. There are some photographs, but I think we've all kind of learned these days that a photograph alone is just not going to serve as evidence.
So these giant cats are in the same predicament that Bigfoot is in.
Oh yeah, absolutely, sure. It's photoshopped. It's been manipulated somehow. How do we know where this photograph was taken? There's nothing in it showing scale to really prove that this was a big cat as opposed to a small cat. All those factors come into play, and it is true that jaguars are thought to be extirpated, thought to have been eliminated in Texas a long time ago. It's been a long time since a sighting that was officially recognized has occurred in Texas. And it is thought and accepted by science that a cougar or a mountain lion does not exhibit melanism. So there are some smaller cats that a bobcat occasionally can be black, but they don't have the long tail. So that doesn't leave much. And that's where sometimes you get it must be an escaped pet, because the exotic pet trade is big business in this country. And big cats are kind of the crown jewel of that trade.
Why are there so many feral cats in Texas?
Well, that's a good question. It's why are there so many everywhere?
Yeah.
It's people are, typically there are leash laws for dogs. Dogs have to be pinned up. They have to be kept in a fenced yard or in a house. Cats, on the other hand, while there may be laws that say they're not supposed to be allowed to just roam around.
How are you going to stop it?
Okay.
Right?
I'm sorry?
I said, how are you going to stop it?
Well, most people let them out in the morning and let them back in sometime in the evening. Who knows what the heck they've been doing all day. And some just put them out. They have a litter and they don't want to take care of them, and they just put them out. And cats are very resilient. And they've been responsible for a lot of damage, particularly the bird population has suffered because of the feral cat problems that we've got. If you think about it, every town has a dog catcher, animal control, come pick up a dog. They're thought that could be dangerous. But there's nobody going around picking up cats very often. If you're lucky, some city official might put out a couple of live traps, but that doesn't happen very often.
How about roadkill? Have there been any reports of these cats getting smucked by vehicles?
Well, there's one in particular that I go into a lot of detail in the book about. Was several years back outside of a central Texas town, very rural area, Madisonville area. And a man who followed the blog contacted me, said he had hit a big black cat the night before, and that he had damaged the front end of his car, and he honestly had no desire to go looking in the brush. He'd hit it, it had gotten up, and it had kind of meandered into the wood line. He said he had no real desire to go looking after a possibly wounded animal.
You can't blame the guy. Like, come on.
Exactly. But he was adamant. It was
Wow.
not a hog. It was not any kind of a dog like a coyote or anything like that. And he described it, as being, bumper high to his vehicle and 4 or 5 feet in length. And you're really limiting your possible suspects in Texas if you get outside of the hog and the dog and the coyote as far as what could be that big. Well, he got home. He managed to nurse his car back to Dallas despite the damage to his front end. And the next morning, he came out to kind of inspect it in the daylight, take a little closer look at it. And he found a bunch of black hairs stuck to his front bumper where he had made contact with this animal. And he had the presence of mind to collect those and wanted to know if I'd be interested in taking them and maybe trying to do some testing on them.
All right, stand by. We're going to have to do another cliffhanger.
Okay.
Yes, we've got to do our news break. Exonation, Michael Mayes is our special guest. Check him. He's got a blog spot. It's texascryptidhunter.blogspot.com, and Michael and I will be back on the other side of this news break at the bottom of the hour, talking about black panthers, big cats, and of course we're going to have to get into Bigfoot as well. This is the X, and I am Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Den.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
We're talking to Michael Mayes this hour. His blog is texascryptidhunter.blogspot.com. Michael has investigated sightings of both out-of-place known animals and those that may or may not exist for the last 15 years. He's appeared on numerous podcast and radio programs and on the Lowe Files on A&E Television Network. Michael blogs at, as I said, the Texas Cryptid Hunter, and is the author of the illustrated children's book, Patty, a Sasquatch Story. All right, so you've got this gentleman who hits this big cat, and he is a very smart man. He doesn't want to go out and chase after a possibly injured animal. Next morning, he finds black hair or fur in his grill. Take it from there, my friend.
Well, again, he had the presence of mind to collect those hair samples, and he had contacted me to relate his story and ask if I would be interested in getting my hands on these hair samples and possibly having someone take a look at them, test them to see what might they be. This was, of course, very exciting to me. Here was possibly concrete evidence that these mythical cats actually existed. So he was a man of his word. He sent those to me. And so I immediately began to contact every biology department of every university I could think of here in the state of Texas, and was very disappointed with the results of that. Of all these universities I contacted, only 2 responded. One was just to lecture me on how I was wasting my time because there was no such thing as a Black Panther. And I said, well, how can you definitively say that? He said, because there's no evidence to support it. I said, well, I might have evidence to support it. And then he would come back and say, well, your evidence cannot be valid because there's no such species. So the circuitous nature of the argument was just infuriating. And so that was a dead end. One university, head of the biology department, got back to me, and he was very friendly. It was in Southeast Texas. I'll leave it at that. But he had claimed himself to have seen one of these Black Panthers down in Southeast Texas shortly after, I believe it was Hurricane Rita. They were trying to do some census numbers on some animals or something along those lines, and said he had seen one big as day just walk across the road right in front of him. So I thought, okay, here's the guy. This is the guy. It's the head of the biology department. He said, now he was a herpetologist, a reptile guy. He said, I'll get with my mammal guy and I'll get back to you. Well, a week went by, 2 weeks went by. So I sent him another email, another contact, and he did get back to me, but this time he was much colder. And my guess is he did talk to his mammal guy, who probably gave him a hard time about it. And he decided that he was not interested after all. This despite him having shared with me that he saw one himself. So I have since talked to some other people you would have heard of who've done some cryptozoology type work. They've appeared on some of the TV shows and things like that, asking if they would be interested in taking a look, and they've all turned me down as well.
Yeah, I don't understand this. I've got to tell you, Michael. Here you've got a group of people who, instead of working together to solve the mystery, would rather compartmentalize their evidence. Is it because they want to have the glory of the final find and they don't want to share it with anybody? I don't understand that mentality.
Well, to a large degree, I don't either. Science is about discovery and searching out new things. However, to be fair, these guys have a right to look at or not look at whatever they want to. Their time, they're busy people, and I do know too, there seems to be a real hesitancy to be the one that goes out on that limb, because it could easily get sawed off right behind you, I suppose. But I don't really understand why there would be any kind of stigma attached to someone who just looked at the samples.
Right.
They may turn out to be nothing. That's all I want to know. And I did have a friend of mine look them over. He looked at them under a microscope. And matter of fact, I did this before I contacted the universities. He's an amateur biologist. He does have a degree in wildlife biology, but he's not a expert in hair morphology or anything like that. But he has his own microscope and setup, and he found a hair atlas of mammals, and they didn't match any known native animals in Texas as far as what they look like. And he said they're not an exact match, but the closest match he could come to was that of a leopard. He says, I really think you need to have somebody look at these. So I took the photographs that he took under his microscope, and I sent those to these people that I contacted, and still nobody was interested. So they're sitting in an envelope. They're in my nightstand drawer as we speak, just waiting for the chance to be examined at some point.
I've had the pleasure of talking to people like you, Jeff Meldrum, and, the list goes on and on and on when it comes to Bigfoot. And then I hear the same thing when it comes to ufology. I hear the same thing when it comes to ancient mysteries and archaeological finds. It's as if the world just does not want to accept that they, members of academia, the scientific community, may have been wrong. And they just don't want to admit, you know what, we were wrong. Bigfoot is real. UFOs are real. Ghosts are real. Why not tell the truth? Are we that naive, or are we that immature that we wouldn't accept the fact that, hey, you were honest enough with us. Thanks for correcting it. Like, my gosh, you're in the educational system. Kids are still being taught today that Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas, and we know that's a bunch of bunk.
Absolutely. I don't completely understand it. Like I said, I do know that, it wouldn't have to be some unknown species for it to be really exciting news. If it turned out that this was a jaguar and it was in central Texas, this is way north and east of where the northernmost part of their range is supposed to be. This would be exciting news. This would be a native species that's been gone for decades, possibly reestablishing itself in its natural habitat, which to me I think would be a great feel-good story, environmentally, when so many things seem to be just terrible. This would be a great story. This would be almost as exciting as if it were something brand new. So I don't quite get it, other than I do understand time constraints, and I do understand testing takes time and money. But it's frustrating.
But isn't the honesty and the integrity of the scientific community, those members of academia who the public puts so much trust and faith in, isn't it worth to them to actually take the time, spend the bucks to establish whether or not this is a species that should not have been found in Texas, or whatever the phenomena is, the unknown?
Well, you would think. I've got a story. I believe we talked a little bit about it last time. There was a study in Ontario, in your neck of the woods there, where the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources, I believe is the title, of the organization. They did a study. They were trying to find out if mountain lions had made their way back into Ontario and were living there. And this was a long study. This was a decade-long study. And they had game cameras, and they had not just bunch of volunteer observers who sat in blinds and things like. These were wildlife biologists. These were highly credentialed, credible people who were participating in this study. And there were dozens of sightings of what were described as black pumas or black cougars. There was even a photograph taken just outside of Guelph, Ontario, which I believe is not too far from where you are.
It's very close.
And there it is, big as day. It is obviously a very large, long-tailed black cat. And there it is.
Yeah.
But the purpose of the study was to see if mountain lions were in Ontario, not black cats. The black cat sightings were dismissed.
Well, I remember when I was at CKTB in St. Catharines as the executive producer of talk radio programming, covering a story about giant black cats, or a giant black cat being seen in the Niagara region, around, it would have been Niagara Falls, Welland, Port Colborne, Fort Erie, in that square. And, once again, witnesses saw the cat, but nobody ever was able to get the evidence.
Yeah, I mean, in the photograph, it was actually labeled a black jaguar by Dr. Rick Rosat, who was working for the Department of the Ministry of Natural Resources.
All right, stand by, Michael. We've got to take our final break. Exonation, Michael Mayes is our special guest. Texas Cryptid Hunter.blogspot.com, and we'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, about 30 minutes south of Guelph. We'll be back. Don't go away.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
The concept of a new age has been around since the late 19th century, yet much of its original meaning has been lost. What exactly is the new age? Is it a religion, a collection of obscure esoteric practices, a series of doomsday predictions, or an astrological event? The New Age Chronicles is a unique, complementary publication bringing reason and grounded information to separate fact from fiction. chock full of valuable information to support you as we make the monumental shift into the new era. You won't want to miss a single innovative issue. The New Age Chronicles newspaper is coming soon to www.newagechronicles.com.
Can you imagine that? Walking down the road or in the forest hearing, "Here, doggy, 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 doggy." I joke, but you know what? I was in law enforcement for many years before getting into the radio industry. And in law enforcement, you communicate, you exchange information because you're trying to solve a crime. Once again, it goes back to my question, why doesn't the cryptid societies or the UFO societies or the ghost investigators or the, whatever, exchange information? If you've got everybody working on the same level, exchanging information, the mystery will be solved that much faster.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But being in law enforcement, I'm sure you know many, many times when agencies failed to communicate, FBI to CIA to local to state to whatever, and as a result, something slipped through the cracks. And
I got to tell you something. Up here in Canada, it's totally different. Like, we share the same database. If I'm in somewhere in Quebec and I run an inquiry, it goes into the RCMP database. It's called CPIC, Canadian Police Information Center. The information is put in by all the agencies into the one data bank, so that law enforcement across Canada, whether you're Canada Customs, whether you're RCMP, QPP, Ontario Provincial Police, or a municipal police force, CN Police, CP Police, military police, you all have the same access to the same information.
Well, we could probably learn something from you guys then.
And I've heard this from many. I've got good friends who are in law enforcement in the States, and they say, "Rob, you got to be kidding." Well, no, that's the way it was. In Quebec, you'd call into the Quebec police force that would tag on to the CPEC system, and you'd get your information. Now it's through the portable data units, and in the car, bang, you get the information. It is shared, and this is why I can't understand the same procedures or the same concept is not used within the paranormal community, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's UFOs, ghosts, you name it. One database, so that all the researchers who pay for everything out of their own pockets, their own expenses, equipment, and the list goes on, would have this valuable tool to help them, get to the bottom of this mystery.
Yeah, I do think when it comes to universities and the subject of tenure is a big thing, and you don't want to be the guy rocking the boat if you're trying to get tenure, and that unfortunately seems to be the driving force with a lot of these guys who could really help with a lot of these matters.
But what does that tell you about the ethics of these people if they will shun the possibility of establishing or discovering something just because they want the money that the university is going to give them if they play ball their way?
Well, I agree with that to a point, but I also understand real life. I'm a married guy trying to get tenure and security. I've got 3 or 4 kids, and I got to feed those kids. I got to put those kids through college. I think it says more about the power structure of the universities themselves, the people who decide tenure. Do they want real inquisitive science going on, or do they just want status quo going on? And
good question.
I think those are really the folks I think we look at. I know for a fact there are a lot of folks out there who are scientists by trade, who are interested in these topics, but who, due to job security concerns, they cannot at least publicly express interest or work with us on these things.
Let's change the subject a little bit. Tell me about your book.
Okay,
Patty,
it
a
is
Sasquatch
called.
Story.
Sure, no, that's okay. It's called Shadow Cats: The Black Panthers of North America, and it's put out by Anomalous Books, who do great stuff. I was thrilled that they wanted to have any part of this project of mine, and it basically talks about all the stuff we've been discussing when it comes to this Black Panther mystery. We have dozens of historical accounts, color photographs, modern accounts, theories as to what we're dealing with, what people are seeing, the likelihood. Jaguar, cougar, giant feral cats. There's a smaller wild cat in Texas called a jaguarundi that has a long tail and can be very dark colored. We talk about all that. We discuss this whole hair sample fiasco that we just talked about.
Right.
I've tracked down a bunch of big cat experts, sent a survey to them, got their opinions on about 20 different questions regarding the whole mystery. And then there's a chapter dedicated to genetics and why that makes some types of known cats more likely to be our prime suspect than others, and the science behind melanism, how it works, and things like that. So it's out now. It was actually published in February. We also looked at habitat. Is there enough room for these things? And there's a sighting distribution map in there where I've charted the location of the sightings that I have deemed credible. I'm up over 150 credible sightings now in the state of Texas alone, and have easily twice that many sightings that I just have a little bit of a question about in my database that I did not include. I only went with the ones I thought were the absolute most solid to put it on the map, and we're looking for patterns. We're looking for, where are these things? And so that's all included in the book. It was a lot of fun to do.
And where's your book available? Is it available online on
Yes,
Amazon
sir.
and
Yep.
other online retailers?
It is. It's available pretty much where online books are
Excellent.
available. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, those kinds of places. If you go to the blog, the Texas Cryptid Hunter blog site, there's a link there that'll take you straight to Amazon. If you want to get a signed copy, you can contact me directly. My email address is on the blog spot there, where you can get in touch with me directly, report a sighting yourself, if you'd like a copy of the book, all that kind of stuff.
Super.
You can get with me, and I'll be glad to get back with you.
And once again, Exonation, Michael's blog spot is texascryptidhunter.blogspot.com. Now tell me about your illustrated children's book, Patty, a Sasquatch Story.
Okay. This was just an idea I had floating around in my head for years before I actually took any action on it. Basically, you take the Patterson-Gimlin film footage of, taken at Bluff Creek in 1967. The subject of that film footage, the Sasquatch in it, or the creature, whatever you want to call it, was nicknamed Patty. It was obviously a female, and the Patty name was a tribute to Roger Patterson. It was a play off of his name. And that thing has been dissected, 7 ways to Sunday for decades now, and a lot of people have even questioned why Patterson and Gimlin were there in the first place, and their story has been examined and re-examined and dissected. It just occurred to me, I said, nobody's really thought about why was that animal there? What was the creature there? And so I kind of just in my mind came up with a children's story about why Patty, as she is known, why she was there in order for those guys to see her. And it's basically a twist on the Ugly Duckling story. How much detail you want to get into, but she's a Bigfoot with little feet, and so she's picked on and teased and she runs away, and that's why she's out there in the middle of nowhere by herself, and that's where she's seen and filmed by these guys. And of course, things turn around for her in the end, but that's the basic premise of the children's book.
I love it.
Yeah, it's beautifully illustrated by a guy named Robert Swain, who people in the Bigfoot world probably be familiar with Robert. He's done a series of books of Far Side style one-panel cartoons that are Bigfoot themed called Laugh Squatch, and he did a beautiful, beautiful job. And it's a beautiful book to look at, even if you got little bitty kids who aren't reading yet. It's a great book to look at. And we actually got together, and he embedded in each illustration 2 or 3 kind of not hidden, but things that are relevant to people who are into the whole Bigfoot phenomenon. And we have a section in the back called the Sasquatch Insider, and where those things are revealed and why they're important. Why is this oil drum and this bulldozer in this picture? And we go back to when they were building the road through that area, and the work crew would come back. Jerry Crew, who discovered the footprints, found oil drums thrown around near his bulldozer and things like that. So it's all kinds of little tidbits and details hidden in those illustrations that are explained in the back.
Michael, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a great pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet back here in the X Zone. If anything important comes up in the world of cryptozoology, let us know. We'll get you right on.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
You take care of yourself and enjoy your summer.
Thank you, sir.
X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Michael Mayes. Find out more about Michael, TexasCryptidHunter.blogspot.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com.
You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com, or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.